You're listening to 4th and Inches on Spreaker Web Radio, presented by Bayou State Pawn and Jewelry and Bayou Bark. Now here are the hosts, Nick Lott and Armando Ramirez.
And we're on for 4th and Inches, Wednesday edition, here to talk college football. I'm Nick Lott, he is Armando Ramirez, and we are here to talk college football like I just said. We have a jam-packed show today, a bunch of news, new commissioner in the Big East, new bowl game between the SEC and the Big 12, news on Tyrann Mathieu, coaches on the hot seat. We got a lot to get to today.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of news coming out. The NCAA football season's about 2 weeks away. Games are gonna get started in 2 weeks, and Tyrann Mathieu needs to find somewhere to go. Things are really shaping up in the Big East, and we have a lot to talk about today.
And I mean, whenever we did our show on Friday, the news broke that morning, and I got a text from a friend at Nicholas State that said Tyrann Mathieu is considering going there. Then you heard a bunch of people saying, "Oh, well, he's thinking about going to McNeese State, also in Louisiana," and then now it was expected that he would make an announcement today, but his dad came out and said that they're kind of just letting the whole situation sink in, let Tyrann get basically his life back together, get headed on the right track before he makes any decisions. Possibly staying at LSU and sitting out a year and playing next year for LSU, possibly transferring somewhere. We don't know yet, but whenever we figure something out, it will be talked about a lot around the country, I'm sure.
Yeah, Tyrann's father said, quote, that they're only concerned about his, quote, well-being, and for right now, football is not the priority. But, I mean, the football season, it's about to start. It's 2 weeks away. So, at some point, it will be his priority. And at some point, we will know if he's going to play football this season or not.
And it did come out. Les Miles did not, in his press conference regarding the situation, he did not say what the team rule was for Tyrann Mathieu being removed from the team. But it came out that it was his third failed drug test in his time at LSU.
Yeah, and yeah,
and like Armando said on Friday, rules are in place for a reason. And I talked to my uncle today who lives in Baton Rouge, and he said, the opinion there is just, yeah, this sucks, but LSU has to get over that. And I'm sure that it's the same way with the team. You have a lot of people that are going to step up in the absence of Mathieu, but rules are rules. They're set in place for a reason, and credit to Les Miles for sticking to his rules and kicking ultimately his best player off the team.
Exactly, and more the reason for Tyrann, just to, if he wants to transfer or if he wants to stay at LSU, it's not really his best option because he got kicked off the team. So he should probably, if he wants to stay and if he wants to have a high draft stock and if he wants to keep playing NCAA Division I football, he should just transfer, get a new start, sit out a year, and play his senior season at some other great school.
I mean, I guess if he were to go through a process to get reinstated to be on the team, because, I mean, they told him straight up, yeah, we're not letting you back. But if he did go through a reinstatement process, I mean, I guess it could happen, but the odds of it happening, I mean, he's a competitive guy. He's going to want to play immediately, and I'm not downplaying the fact that he needs to get himself on the right track to be a productive student athlete again, because that's what they are. They're students before they're athletes.
Right, and I mean, if he did go to McNeese State or if he did go to some other school, he would be playing now, and I guess he does want to play right now, but I think he's thinking about his future, and obviously he has a really bright future. He was slated to have a high draft stock in the NFL, so I mean, he's not really going to get that from McNeese State. So
exactly,
the best thing, well, in my opinion, the best thing for him to do would be just to sit out a year and see where it goes from there. He should probably transfer, is what I think. It's just better for the team and morale-wise.
I mean, he was a big part of that program, though. And
yeah,
the players are still getting over that. But like I said, they're so deep. Any team in the SEC, when it comes to the depth that you have, yes, Tyrann Mathieu was their best player, consensus All-American, one of the best cornerbacks in the country, along with Morris Claiborne last year. Both LSU cornerbacks first-team All-Americans, and now they've lost both of them. Touched a little bit on it on Friday, but no news yet as to where he's going. And if we figure anything out about that, we will let y'all know. And hate to break it to y'all, but this is the last show that we're going to do before we're both up in College Station.
That's not a bad thing.
Hey, what's that supposed to mean? You don't want to be around me?
No, that's not a bad thing that this is our last show before we go to College Station. Because College Station's going to be 20 times better than here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. But as far as listening goes, y'all aren't going to hear us for a little over a week, right?
Something like that. Probably, yeah. Probably a week.
What I do want to do, though, is once we get up there, the first college football game of the season is Texas A&M against Louisiana Tech, so I do want to do a show, I guess, that Wednesday before that game.
Or we could just do it live. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out,
and we'll let y'all know. But, I mean, Tyrann Mathieu still off the team at LSU. Will he come back? Nobody really knows at this point. Will he transfer? No one knows. That all remains to be seen. And we will be right back after a commercial break. 4th and Inches, Spreaker Web Radio. Stay right there. Tyrann Mathieu, stay off the drugs.
Listening to 4th and Inches on Spreaker Web Radio, presented by Bayou State Pawn and Jewelry, Bayou Bark, and RDM Audio. Now here are the hosts, Nick Lott and Armando Ramirez.
And we're back, 4th and Inches, Spreaker Web Radio. Nick Lott, Armando Ramirez in the house for you. Thanks for hanging in over that short break, but we got a lot more college football to get to this segment. We're going to break down the new Big East commissioner. And I mean, it's a great move for the Big East, and he has so much credibility. He's worked for ESPN, and Mike Oresco is his name. He's worked for ESPN from 1984 to 89, and up until recently, he was the vice president of programming at CBS. And he is the guy behind the big deal with the SEC and CBS, or SEC football, that is, and CBS, and the Final Four's deal with CBS as well.
Right. Mike Oresco, new commissioner for the Big East. As Nick said, he has been the vice president for the CBS in charge of programming. He has handled network contracts for the NCAA and for the rights of the men's basketball tournament. I think this is why this is probably the major reason why they brought him in as the commish, because he does have that television experience. And really,
the Big East is, I mean,
exactly,
they're crumbling.
Really, what the Big East, they're not crumbling now. They got some good talented teams into the Big East as they lost three of the big powers, yeah. And then, so, basically, this guy has a lot of leverage. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to negotiate deals, and he knows how to get your team that TV deal, which is really what the Big East is going to want. They're going to want that big TV deal so that they can be as big as the SEC, as big as the Big 12, and as big as all the other conferences that are in the NCAA that have their own networks.
But, I mean, you have to think, and we were talking about this while we were planning the show, the ACC has really fallen off the map in recent years. I mean, they're a good basketball conference because of Duke and North Carolina, but as far as football, I mean, Florida State's not where they were. I mean, Jimbo Fisher does what he can there, but in my opinion, he's no Bobby Bowden. I mean, Clemson's always a team that's expected to be good, and I mean, you see what happened to them in West Virginia in the Orange Bowl last year, just getting 70 points dropped on them. So as far as conference-wise, I mean, the Big East lost West Virginia to the Big 12, obviously. We've touched on that a bunch, and how we both think West Virginia is a team that is highly overrated at this point. And, I mean, the Big East is a pretty weak football conference, but Mike Oresco, I think he will make things a lot better.
Yeah, and that's what that's what he's really trying to do. He's trying to make the teams better. Not make the teams better, but he's trying to bring more talented teams into the Big East so they can be because that's really what matters. Football is what drives these schools. Football is where all the money is at. So that's why they brought him in. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to make this a bigger football power.
And also, I mean, a thing that a lot of people forget is, and I mean, I'm kind of included in this category, is this country is so rounded around football. You forget that this affects other sports like football or like basketball, baseball, soccer, you name it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I don't like this realignment thing. If you're gonna switch schools, or if you're not switch schools, but
Switch
if
conferences.
you're gonna move conferences, move all your sports to that conference.
Well, I mean, they do though.
No, but like the Big East, only there's some teams that move to the Big East that are only football. Like for example, Boise State, Boise State's only football, which is okay, but like the other sports are still with the Mountain West, I believe.
That gets kind of confusing.
Exactly.
After a while,
If you want your school to be notable and noted, just be noted with one conference. Like, for example, Oklahoma, always Big 12. Oklahoma State, Big 12. Florida, SEC. Alabama, SEC. Build your name with that conference, and don't be, oh, yeah, we're only going to do football for this conference. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, what he's really going to do is get the Big East teams more televised. I mean, like you said, he does have that television experience with CBS and ESPN back in the day, but I mean that's really what the Big East lacks. They don't have any football powers. He's going to make that different, and he's also going to make teams not want to leave the conference and go create super conferences. But I mean, I think it'll be at least a year or two before you see his real impact in the Big East. Maybe it's more immediate. I don't really know. But Mike Oresco, hell of a lot of credibility, and I think he'll be a great fit to the Big East.
Right, and he will be a great fit no matter what. He has a plan in place. He knows what he wants to do with that conference. He wants to make it a huge conference, just like the other big conferences in the nation. So, with his background and with his experience that he has, he should be able to make it happen, and he has the right vision to make it happen. So he's gonna do a good job, and whatever happens with the Big East, it should be good. Even though they did lose Syracuse, West Virginia, and Pittsburgh, they gain a lot more. Well, they gain.
Did they lose all those for all sports?
Yeah, they lost them for all sports. And those are three power. The thing is that those are pretty much basketball schools. So basically, the Big East is trying to switch from being a basketball power to moving into football power, because they never really were a big football power.
And I mean, we've touched on that a lot in this segment already, but I mean, I get exactly what you're saying. They're a basketball conference. They want to be known as a football conference because, like I said earlier, college football is what seems to drive this country. I mean, you have a couple. Basketball is a huge deal. I mean, you see the Final Four, baseball, College World Series, but football is the one that gets all the attention. I mean, you have bowl season, huge matchups that are highly anticipated, and I mean, you get that in basketball too, but it's not as
big.
Right.
For me, when I think of college basketball, I really don't watch the regular season. I just wait.
You just wait for March Madness.
March Madness, and that's where I kick in. That's where I like to fill out my bracket and things. But now I think that's where the playoff is coming from.
Right.
This football saw how big the March Madness can get, how much money you can get from March Madness, and they said, well, if we do a sort of kind of a playoff, then we can be making billions and billions of dollars.
Exactly, and I mean, it doesn't take a clown to figure that out.
Right.
That's a hard question, bro.
But having that said, we're going to be right back. We talked about the playoff a little bit earlier, and there's a new bowl game. We're going to touch on that on the next segment. New bowl game between the SEC and the Big 12, and how that'll affect the future playoff. We're going to touch on that, all that and more, coming up on 4th and Inches.